Hey, it's Lowry Smith of the Commander Smiths here with Searching for the Spotlight. Ygra, Eater of All. Uh, Pretty cool card. Three colorless, black and a green for 6/6 ward sacrifice of food. Other creatures are food artifacts in addition to their other types and have the food things. Two sacrifice and gain 3 life. Whenever a food is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, put 2/1/1 counters on Ygra, Eater of All. So I think it's a really cool commander, as in like being able to turn everything into artifacts, all the other creatures. Gonna be doing some artifact hate in this deck, make Ygra really big. Right now, I got to cut about 26 cards from this list. Gonna have about 33 land. But first, Commander Smiths is a podcast that tries to record every Monday night, but at least once a week. Our audio comes out every Wednesday on all the platforms that you could ever wish and hope for. So check us out, Commander Smiths. You can also just subscribe on YouTube. This is kind of where everything goes as well. We do have a Patreon, $1 to get into the Discord. We give away proxies at different levels. So any way that you can help out, that'd be great. We're looking to try and do some more like in real life video gameplay with like precons and stuff like that. That is the future goal. Get some cool cameras and hopefully create some more content. We do short videos on cards. Adam makes proxies with art and all that kind of jazz. Um, so we just try and do stuff. You know what I mean? So hopefully everybody out there is having a good time. And Ygra should be a lot of fun. Let me go through the land that I plan on keeping really quick. I don't normally do this, but I have it actually picked out. So we're gonna go some swamps, underground mortuary, the Shire for food. Same thing with gingerbread cabin. You got verdant catacombs, prismatic vista, fabled passage, Nykthos, because I'm gonna have a lot of permanents, so that should be able to get me plenty of land. Ancient tomb. Again, I like this in 2 color decks. It's an expensive card, so if you get one and you want to proxy it, that's kind of how we play. Spy Master's Vault, which is kind of a cool way. Um, target creature you control. The ability is target creature you control connives, where X is the number of creatures that died this turn. This is kind of killing a bunch of creatures, so could potentially connive a bunch and make Ygra even better. Rensha, hey, what's up, bud? Okay, hear me out. Add red, make your lock your commander, and it's better. You maybe you're right. Maybe Jund them out, but you know what? There's only so many Jund decks that I can change into here, Rensha. You just keep on suggesting them. So I don't know, but Spy Master's Vault is a pretty cool land that I'm interested. Bonder's Enclave, just drawing cards. Same thing with War Room, Deathcap Glade, Twilight Mire, just some fixing here. Undergrowth Stadium, Slitherborn Pathway, the flip one, Nurturing Peatland, Temple of Malady, Command Tower, Golgari Rot Farm, Woodland Cemetery, Llanowar Waste, Restless Cottage, Urza's Saga, Don't Tell Nobody, and end it with some forests. Aiming to have about 33, 34 land in this one. And that should be good to go. Only because Jund is best. Yeah, of course it is. It's almost as good as Grixis. Just kidding. I don't build Grixis either. Um, it's not Calmax colors, so but it's close. Turn that black into blue, and that's like a frown upside down. So that's where my head is at, always with Calamax. Again, Ygra turning things into artifacts. So creatures kind of matter, artifacts kind of matter. You putting 1/1 counters on there. Um, and that's kind of what it is. You want to be able to protect it. So let's see what we got on this. Like I said, 26 cuts is what I'm going for. This should be in relative packages, so we'll go with some of the themes. You want your dirty mouth. You know what? You wash your dirty mouth. Dial soap. Blech. All right. Sadistically, whenever a creature is put into any graveyard from play, put a 1/1 counter on enchanted creature. You could put this on Ygra, but really any creature out there. Blade of the Blood Chief. Basically, it's the same thing in this deck, but in equipment. Animation module, whenever you put one or more 1/1 counters on a permanent you control, you can pay one to create a 1/1 servo. So that's more food in the deck. Also, should point out that this isn't just non-token creatures. This is all creatures except for Ygra. So creating more creatures with the 1/1 counters is pretty sweet. And that's just kind of the little bit of +1/+1 counter. I think I kind of messed this around. There's a couple. The the first couple are kind of messed up. But Viscera Seer, sacrificing a creature, scrawling. So good stuff there. I kind of put this in the draw section. Skull Clamp, also being able to sacrifice to draw 2 cards, make Ygra better is pretty nice. Bone Cash Overseer. Uh, Tap, pay a life, draw a card, and then activate only if you've sacrificed a food in this deck. That's basically what you're going to be doing. So, real cheap draw. The Ozolith, if somebody's able to get rid of your Ygra with a bunch of counters on it, you're going to be able to kind of keep those counters a little bit. Llanowar Elves. Oh, you know what? It is not in sections, it is in the curve. So, we are at 1. I got it. I got there. So we're on the curve. We're at the 1 spot. We're not too bad. Llanowar Elves, it's pretty version promo. Elves of the Deep Shadow, old version, still pretty. Birds of Paradise, nice ramp. Kind of just a lot of ramp in the beginning for sure. Findhorn Elves, this is a pretty promo. You should go and check out the 30th anniversary stuff. They have a lot of really cool cards with old foil border. Go check that out. It goes 1 per year. Delighted Halfling, Deathrite Shaman. There is slight, kind of like it's not burn, but life drain, and Deathrite Shaman kind of fits into that as well. Elvish Mystic, just there for that ramp, real cheap and easy, and being a food. Pick your poison. Basically, you're choosing each opponent sacrifices an artifact, and which is can be an artifact, but can be a food, stuff like that. I don't know. Rancor, just making sure that Ygra, if it's big, gets through. So +2/+0 and trample. And then Shadow Spear, also trample, lifelink, +1/+1. Does some good stuff there. Sensei's Divining Top. This ends up going in every deck. I love it. It's my favorite card. It is, in my opinion, the best card in Commander. I'm surely biased. So likely going to make it. Elven Farsight, scry 3, reveal a top card. If it's a creature, put it, draw a card. So great card in creature heavy decks in green for sure. Disciple of Vault, that's that life loss thing again. So when an artifact is put in a graveyard from play, target opponent loses 1 life. Goes great against those treasure decks. This is, trying to kill a bunch of creatures that are already artifacts, so should work together. Cauldron Familiar, when it ETBs, each opponent loses a life, you gain a life, sacrifice food, or return it back to play. So it's a food, sacrifices, gain some life, sacrifice another food, bring it back into play. I think it's perfect for and in this deck. Gilded Goose, making mana and food, perfect for the deck. Witch's Oven, which is perfect with Cauldron Familiar. So if you do one, you do both. Sack a creature, create a food. Scavenger's Talent. It's 1 black. I don't even want to up it. So it's whenever one or more creatures you control die, create a food token. Happens only once per turn. So it's just creature dies, create a food token. It should be really efficient and nice. Eternal Thirst into this 2-drop here. Let's go through the ones and just see if there's anything that I'm like, ugh. I think a lot of the one spot's really hard to move through. I like a lot of these cards. The only one that I'm potentially having problems with is Pick Your Poison. And let's just cut it just because we can. And I am thinking maybe one of these 1-drop manas, because there's a lot there. It's probably, it's good, but Ozolith is probably doing some work. Animation module, Blade of the Blood Chief, Sadistic Lead, draw, and Viscera Sphere as a sack outlet. So see what I mean? We got a bunch of 8 1-drop manas. I like Birds of Paradise. I like Delighted. Deathrite, and Gilded Goose. And so really what I'm looking at is probably 2 of these 4. Um, and really it's whatever I don't think is prettiest, right? Because these 3 are the same: Elf Druid, Elf Druid, Elf Druid. And then this one gets me an off color, and that's if you know you got green, it's best to get black type thing. Keep Deep Shadow. Yep. So we're on the same. You're right. You're right. And so we're talking about 2 of these 3. Let's keep Land of War Elves because that is the prettiest promo. We'll cut those 2. And then we're down to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 1-drop ramps, which is plenty, you know. Like, yeah, I don't want just all of my first turns to be a drop. So, all right, let's get into the 2s. Eternal Thirst. This is an aura when enchanted creature has lifelink, and whenever a creature an opponent controls dies, put a 1/1 counter on this creature. Um, it's not any creature because it's not including your own, but the life link is really quite nice for this. I can imagine Ygra hitting for, gaining 10 plus life seems crazy. So I like that. Marionette Apprentice. This is whenever another creature or artifact you control is put in the graveyard from the battlefield, each opponent loses life. Fabricate. So it makes a token, does 1/1 counter on it if either one, not both. Um, so it just works perfect in this deck, I think. Collective Restraint. And this has Escalate. So destroying an artifact is perfect. Target creature gains hexproof and indestructible, which is perfect for Ygra. And if you gotta get rid of a enchantment, you can do it. But this card scales great in this deck. Smuggler's Surprise. I was just looking for a bunch of cards that could protect Ygra plus some other things. But Smuggler's Surprise, this has Spree. So really it's here for 2 creatures you control with power 4 or greater gain hexproof and indestructible until end of turn. So that's the main one. And then you can mill and potentially put some creatures into play. But it's really here for the green colorless. Rapid Vigor, regenerate each creature you control. Heroic Intervention, your creature, all your permanents get hexproof and indestructible. Weatherlight Completed. Um, there was a lot more like incremental sacrificing in this deck so that you can scry or draw. There's plenty of black creatures that, like, whenever a creature you control dies, draw a card. And there's like a lot of that goes on, but I think I've cut it down enough that it's not really needed. So Weatherlight Completed, I think there's going to be enough creatures that die that you can scry and this turns into a creature, and then you can potentially start drawing cards later on after 6 or whatever tokens on it. But I think this is interesting. Gets really aggressive, also an artifact. So yeah. Liquid Metal Torque. I like it for the ramp, but also just target non-land permanent becomes an artifact in addition to its other types till end of turn. And you're an artifact hate kind of deck. And so it's nice to be able to turn something that you can't quite hit and then get it. Sakura Tribe Elder. Steve. Perfect in this deck. A, a Cursed Marauder. And this is kind of a half-ass theme in here as well. But whenever it ETBs, each player, including yourself, sacrifices a non-token creature. Generally, in my mind, I want to sacrifice this creature, and that you're not losing another creature. More than likely, this is just the best one to sacrifice. Um, and so everybody sacrifices a creature. If you got 4 players, Ygra gets 2, 4, 6, 8, and it's a huge creature right away. So Tribute of the Wild. Each opponent sacrifices an artifact or enchantment. This was kind of in line with the Pick Your Poison. If I don't like Pick Your Poison, I should probably not like Tribute to the Wild. I mean, one's an instant, one's a sorcery. But I think the more creatures I have, the better. Here's an old school one. So, but Gate to Phyrexia, black enchantment. At your upkeep, sacrifice a creature. If you do, destroy target artifact. So it's sacrifice one of your creatures, destroy somebody else's biggest creature. It's just old. It's cool to be have this and use it. It's perfect in this deck, I think. So and I got a couple of old cards and I'm excited to play with in this deck. So Gate to Phyrexia, cool, sweet, awesome. Nice Whisper, draw two, lose two. Swiftfoot Boots, you need some protection in here for Ygra. That's the deck. So Boots, Greaves, Cranial Plating, each or equipped creature gets +1/+0 for each artifact you control. All your creatures are going to turn into artifacts with Ygra. You're going to turn probably split the power. Like you don't have to put this on Ygra. And so you got a couple of beaters going out there. Golgari Charm. All creatures get -1/-1 until end of turn, destroy an enchantment, or regenerate each creature you control. This is here for the regeneration, but it's all relevant. Um, Cyberman Patrol. Artifact creatures you control have afflict 3, which means if they are blocked, it's going that player loses 3 life for each block. All your creatures are artifacts when Yigra's in play, so this can do a lot of life loss. Chthonian Nightmare. ETBs, you get 3 energy. You can pay X energy, sacrifice a creature, return a creature of 3 or less, probably from your graveyard to play. So I think this is a nice little loop because this goes back to your hand, and you should have plenty of creatures to sacrifice. Trail of Crumbs. ETBs, you get a food. Whenever you sacrifice a food, you may pay 1. If you do, look at the top 2 cards of your deck. You may reveal a permanent from among them and put in your hand. Rest on the bottom. So, great card in your food decks. Trail of Crumbs. And then the last one, Power Leech. 2 green enchantment. Gain 1 life whenever one or of your opponent's artifacts becomes tapped, or whenever they activation cost of one of your opponent's artifacts is paid, is not triggered by continuous artifacts. So, yeah, it's another old card, right? So whenever your opponent's creatures attack and their artifacts, you're going to be gaining life. All of the artifact ramp that's happening out there, you're going to gain a ton of life. Excited to see how this one does for me. All right, going through the twosies. Let's see here. I want that in there. Trail of Crumbs makes a ton of sense. There is a sacrifice thing going on, so I want to keep that in play. I like the protection spells, the boosts, the little bit of the draws. Probably the oldest cards are probably the worst ones out of the ones that we've seen, but I really do want to play with them. So that's on theme. Sakura Tribe Elder is going to be perfect. It's always going to be good in this deck. Late game it feeds into Ygra. Early game you're getting land into play. Torque's going to do some work, I think. um, Maybe not. All right, protection spell, protection spell, protection spell, protection removal, and a life drain. Eternal thirst. I like that pump too. All right, Weatherlight completed. 2 mana vehicle has flying. If it has 4 or more, if it is a creature. And whenever a creature you control dies, put a counter on it and then draw a card. If it has 7 or more viruses counters on it, if it doesn't, scry. And I don't think that the incremental part, like it doesn't have the sack outlet part of it, like Viscera Seer. I mean, it can become a banger once you get 4 or more counters on it. Question is how many I'm gonna have. Um, I think that's a cut. That's a cut for now. We might just need some more draw too. I don't know. I gotta look at the sections. But that's the 2 spot. All right, 3 spot is generally the biggest. All right. This is kind of where my curve ends up being heaviest. Rapacious Guest. Whenever one or more creatures you control deal combat damage to a player, create a food. So more than likely, at most creating 3 food. Has menace. Whenever you sacrifice a food, put a 1/1 counter on it. And whenever this leaves play, target opponent lose life equal to its power. So we do have plenty of boosters in here. So like Eternal Thirst on this, it's going to get 2 counters, and when it dies, um, or leaves play. It's not even dies. It is a leaves the battlefield, which is nice as well. You don't have to worry about exiling or bouncing. It's just leaving the battlefield. So I like it. It works really well in this deck. Morbid Opportunist is one of those cards I talked about earlier. Whenever one or more other creatures die, draw a card. This ability triggers only once each turn. So this is at least a draw spell in this deck. Viridian Revel. Whenever an artifact is put into an opponent's graveyard from the battlefield, you may draw a card. This card is an auto keep snap in this deck. It's going to be great. Braids Arisen Nightmare. At the beginning of your end step, you may sacrifice an artifact, creature, enchantment, land, or planeswalker. If you do, each opponent may sacrifice a permanent that shares a card type with it. For each opponent who doesn't, that player loses 2 life and you draw a card. So this is like card draw, that life loss, sack outlet, basically removal. It's doing a ton. It's nice to have a little bit of a sack outlet. I might have to figure out how many I have in this deck, but I think it's a slow grinding great card in here because if they're sacrificing creatures or Ygra Grit's huge. So Savala, Heart of the Wild. Whenever another creature ETBs, if it's the highest power, they get to draw a card. That part doesn't matter for me. Ygra likely will just end up being the biggest creature on the battlefield, and so this is a huge mana sink for me. Inspiring Statuary. Non-artifact spells you cast have improvise. As you're casting it, your creatures are not artifacts, so they can get helped by the improvise part. But when they ETB, they will trigger anything that does artifacts. Um, so just in that, just that little bit of a difference is going to allow you to gain a lot of abilities there. So inspiring statuaries could be really cool. Pawn of Ulamog. Whenever a non-token creature dies, you get to create an 0/1 Eldrazi spawn that can sacrifice for a mana. This is just that, like, my creatures die, I get more token creatures that can be more food. Them being able to sacrifice will count towards Ygra. When I'm just trying to get mana, it's going to work pretty well, I think. Plague Crafter. ETBs, each player sacrifices a creature, and if they can't, they discard a card. And so I'd always sacrifice Plague Crafter. Same thing, Fleshbag Marauder, Merciless Executioner, and Demon's Disciple. ETBs, each player sacrifices a creature or planeswalker. Should be one more. There we go. Grave Lighter. This one is the only questionable one for me, but it's a 2/2 flyer. When it ETBs, draw a card if a creature died this turn. Otherwise, each player sacrifices a creature. So you kind of got to make sure that, like, you want people to be sacrificing the creatures with these cards, but maybe a little bit of draw isn't bad either. Chatterfang, Squirrel General. You do have some tokens being made here with the spawns and the other foods and squirrels and stuff like that. So you get to make more squirrels and more token, and which are really just more food. And it's its own sack outlet for at least those squirrels being created. Seeds of Innocence, getting some of the good stuff here. But bury all artifacts, destroy all artifacts. Each artifact's controller gains an amount of life equal to that artifact's casting cost. So it's just destroy all the creatures. Yigger gets huge, and you probably one shot somebody. Doesn't matter how much life they just gained. You one shot them. Go for it. Kill Switch. Sweet, sweet artifact. Great in this deck. But 3 mana come out, 2 tap it, tap all other artifacts. They don't untap during their controller's untap step as long as Kill Switch remains tapped. So you get this out, Yigra's in play, you tap down everybody's creatures, swing in. Yigra is not an artifact, and he gets to just get on through to the other side. Brotherhood Vert Bird. 3 mana vehicle. Its power is equal to the number of artifacts you control. Has flying. So this is kind of the same thing. Like, it's what I really should be thinking of is, do I like this kind of card whenever a creature dies, something grows, or it's just something that comes into play and is big? Um, I think there one is I mean, they're both good. I like them both, right? But they're kind of competing. One is good after Wrath Effect, and one is bad after Wrath Effect. And I want to do the Seeds of Innocent effect. So maybe I should be thinking of there's a bad card up until I'm about to Wrath, or I don't know. I don't know. Brotherhood Vertbird. Gaia's Avenger, another old card that I'm really happy I'm going to be able to use. But power and toughness is equal to the amount of artifacts your opponents control. This is going to be huge. This is going to be big. So I like that. Nettle Cyst, another one of those that are just +1/+1 for each artifact or enchantment you control. All your creatures are artifacts and stuff like that. So it should be pretty big. Camellia the Seed Miser. Now this is a little bit of the infinite combo. There are a little bit. I don't want to talk about it though. But other squirrels you control have menace. Whenever you sacrifice one or more foods, create a 1/1 green squirrel creature token, which comes into play, which would be a food. So whenever you sacrifice more foods, make more foods. So if you have a sack outlet, you can infinitely sack for whatever you need to have happen. Um, I mean, can you blame me? I'm sorry. Um, yeah. Emissary of Despair, 2/1 flyer. Whenever it deals combat damage to a player, that player loses one life for each artifact he or she controls. Artifact hate, it's a beautiful card. Warren Soul Trader, pay a life, sack a creature, create a treasure. Um, so it's mana, it's a sack outlet. It's not bad for you. Tireless Provisioner, landfall, create a treasure or food, both relevant in this deck. Happy to have it. Savvy Hunter. When it attacks or blocks created food, you can sacrifice 2 food, draw a card. So sacrifice 2 creatures, draw a card. Peregrine Took. Whenever one or more tokens would be created, create those +1 food token, and you can sacrifice 3 foods to draw a card or 3 creatures or any mixture of it. So good sack outlets there as well. Academy Manufacturer. Whenever you make a creature token, that is considered creating a food token. And so you would get the Academy Manufacturer. So obviously these create food, but let's say, um, what would be a good example here? So basically, Chatterfang. It's what's a better example? How about that? All right. Marionette Apprentice comes into play. You fabricate to make a token. That token is a food with Ygra in play, would create the treasure and the clue and the food for Academy Manufacturer. I don't know if I have enough of those kind of triggers, but it makes a ton of sense for me at this point. And then experimental confectioner, another one of those kind of infinite loops with a sack outlet. But when ETPs create a food token, whenever you sacrifice a food, create a 1/1 black creature token that can't block. And that would also be a food. So whenever you sacrifice one of them, you get another one of them. Rinse and repeat with a sack outlet. So let's go through there. I still think Academy Manufacturer makes a ton of sense in this deck. We got sack outlets, we got the drain. I want to keep that in. I do think, Gaia's Avenger still makes it's like the Nettle Cyst, but if I'm cutting Nettle Cyst, I'll still keep Gaia's Avenger in there. But just because it's old, I have it. That's a banger. And it's probably going to be bigger than Brotherhood because this is how many artifacts you control versus your opponents. It's always more impactful. You're going to have more triggers and more opportunity for something when it says all of your opponents. Your things will be bigger than that. But the problem is as you lose opponents, this gets weaker, and this generally would be stronger when it's just considering yourself. So I don't know. Kill Switch, Seedless, that whole package. I really like that package, so I want to go with that. Pawn of Ulamog, yep. all of this kind of makes sense to me. What is there's something that you don't like? Do you have Marionette Master? Yes, that is in the sixth spot. So we'll get there for sure. And that's a really good point too. So like Marionette Master, Rapacious Guest wants the well, it can be happy with either one. Eternal Thirst style cards that want things to die. Well, you know what? You know what? I think that's I know maybe you didn't mean that, but if we can have creatures or if we have things that'll just give a huge boost to something like Rapacious Guest, um, which is really like Nettle Cyst. So you do a Nettle Cyst and then it's huge, and then you just sacrifice it to one of the sack outlets and you do a lot of damage that way instead of having to sacrifice, 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 and then, oh, it's big, it's a deal. Like it's, I think, a lot less work for a Nettle Cyst. So that makes sense to me. We will cut these style of cards, which are really just the beginning ones. I don't know how many cuts we'll get there. Ooh, they were in the one spot though. All right, we will cut. Skull Clamp gets to stay. That's a sack outlet, but Sadistic Glee, Blade of the Blood Chief might end up getting animation module as well, but those three can go at this point. We need to make 26-ish cuts. Oh, we do have all of this up on our Mox Field. So if you want to go check out Commander Smith's at Mox Field, you see over 100 deck lists that we've created over the couple of years that we've been on Mox Field. And you'll feel, I'm sure you'll find some stuff that you'll like out there. So in that three spot, I think we're happy with cards like this getting bigger with cards like that or that kind of stuff. So maybe there's other cards that we can look at, but I'm probably pretty happy. It doesn't jive perfectly with the sacrificing because that's really nice too. So like with Blade of the Blood Chief, this comes down, boom, everybody sacrifices a creature. You put 4/1/1 counters on a creature with the Blood Chief, and it doesn't do anything for something like Vertibird. Um, I think that's all right though. All right, four spot, 4 plus. Gaio Master Chef. Chief. I was gonna say Master Chief. All right. 5/3 trample at the beginning of your end step. Create a number of food tokens equal to the number of non-token creatures you had ETB this turn. You can pay one sack of food and target creature gains indestructible. Tap it. So this is a sack outlet. It's a protection piece that makes food, and it's a 5/3 trample itself. So it seems like it's going to be really good in this deck. Pitiless Plunderer. It's one of those cards that's going to get a bunch of treasures, which also feed into the the worker, and it's very similar to some of the other cards that are making tokens. So that makes sense to me. Nim Shrieker, another one of those +1/+0 for each artifact you control. Maybe that's something that we just kind of get rid of along with the Nimbird or the Vertibird and just be happy with. But I mean, they're flying. I think they're the only two along with the Avenger. It's not bad. I kind of like it. I mean, just paying for dropping it and having be an 8/1 flyer. That sounds good to me, right? I don't know. That seems fun. So, uh, it might not, but I feel like just dropping that little banger could be fun. Creeping Corrosion, destroy all artifacts. So, like you get that and you have Ygra in play, you're doing it ASAP, making Ygra huge and closing the game out pretty quick. Mandate of Abandon. Choose target creature, Ygra, you control. Destroy all creatures with power less than that creature's power. It's basically just destroy all the creatures. Sifter of Skulls. Whenever you have a creature, non-token creature die, put a 1/1 spawn into play. So that's also a food that sacrifices. Uh, the Shrieker isn't good. You don't like that plan? How dare you? It seems interesting to me. So you probably don't like the Vertibird any either. Um, Fine. Fine. All right. Sifter of Skulls. We'll see. We'll see. I don't know. Sifter of Skulls. So you're just getting tokens when things die. Yawgmoth, drawing cards, sacrificing. It's just a nice outlet. It's a one toughness flyer that could be chump blocked. Yeah, for sure. Why would I attack somebody that can chump block it? Maybe I just give it you know, trample. Get a little ding. All right. Do you have a problem with the vertibird? Let's see if we can find that vertibird again. Brotherhood vertibird. So with the 4 toughness, you're fine with it even though it has the crew too? Or do you just not like both of them? Probably don't like both of them. Damn it. I'm not mad, just disappointed. Because you're probably right. I mean, I think you're right. All right. Deathcap Ritual. At the end of each turn, if a creature died, draw a card. Wicked Wolf. Sacrifice a food, put a 1/1 counter on it, gains indestructible, tap it. When it ETBs, fights target creature you don't control. The nice thing is this is something that can survive through one of those wrath effects. So like you attack with Ygra, Wicked Wolf. Um I guess you can't. You probably gotta you know, you probably gotta put it on the stack, sacrifice all your stuff, make him huge, wrath, attack with Ygra. Still got a big guy there, but all right. I figured you weren't a fan. Fine. It's just I always have, but your opinion is very valid, Renshai. I think you're a great builder. Um, and so like one of the things that when somebody goes, "Hey, that's not a good one," or "I don't like that card," you go, "Why?" And I could ask you why, but I'm going to assume and put words in your mouth as well. Um, but really, what it is it's a card that doesn't have any abilities. So, like you're right, if somebody just can chump it, it's gonna chump it all day, and it just is a bad card in your deck. Now, if you can swing in, but all it is a big dumb creature, and big dumb creatures don't do enough in decks. If and so that's how I would justify cutting them, other than Gaia's Avenger, just because it's an old ass card. So right now, I'm trying to keep in those old ass cards, right? Wicked Wolf, like it. Eldrazi Monument. All your creatures get +1/+1, flying indestructible, and you got to sack one. You got plenty of creatures to sacrifice here, so it's going to work. Darksteel Juggernaut, probably in that same vein. This is just a big dumb creature. 5 mana, indestructible. Power and toughness is equal to the artifacts you control, and it attacks each combat if able. I did like it because it was indestructible, but if I wrath, it's a what a 4/4. It's a 1/1 2/2. It's nothing. So it's a dead creature. Just with that idea. If they had flying and another thing like trample or menace, they would be much better. Yeah, but it's still just a big dumb beater. And those are only kind of good near the end. And also, I think I neuter them with the cards that do wraths. So there's enough downside there that they're just not good enough. Rishkar's expertise, 6 mana sorcery, draw cards for as big as Ygra is, and then cast a spell of 5 or less for free. We're getting to the sixes now. Harvester of Souls. Whenever a non-token creature dies, you may draw a card. It's another one of those 30th anniversary foils. Again, they're gorgeous. They're very, very pretty cards. So Marionette Master, as you requested, 6 mana, 1/3 with Fabricate 3. Whenever an artifact you control is put in the graveyard from the battlefield, target opponent loses life equal to Marionette Master's power. Um, and so if you put a Nettle Cyst on this, that's going to be good. Bane of Progress comes down, destroys all creatures, including itself, makes Ygra huge. So just another one of them. Silk Guard. Uh, X and a green instant. Put a 1/1 counter on each of up to X target creatures you control. Auras, equipment, and modified creatures you control gain hexproof until end of turn. Really, this is one green. Ygra gains hexproof and the potential to put some 1/1 counters on some creatures. Cybermen Squadron, 7 mana, 5/5, non-legend artifact creatures you control have myriad. Sorry. And so basically all your creatures that attack, um, that aren't legends, you get to make a couple of copies of them. That's kind of nice, I think. And then you can sacrifice them with all your sacrifice outlets. Wave of Vitriol. Each player sacrifices all artifacts, enchantments, non-basic lands, and she controls for each non-land or for each land sacrifice. Go get a basic, put it into play tapped. But another one of those wrath effects. It's kind of perfect in here. Plague Wind. Destroy all creatures you don't control. They can't be regenerated. In Garrick's Wake, destroy all creatures you don't control and all planeswalkers you don't control. So obviously, I'm trying to go one-sided stuff for here. And one of the best cards, Great Henge. It's going to come down for green, green. Whenever you tap it, gain 2 life. You get 2 green mana. And then you can draw a card whenever a non-token comes into play and put a 1/1 counter on it. Does everything and anything, always and forever. That is a ton of cards. We went through and we cut 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Probably half of what we needed already. um 40 minutes. I'm gonna put this in the section, but I need to go and blow my nose a little bit. So give me 1 minute. All right, real quick. There we go. So I'm gonna put this into sections. This is always for me, I count this as mana, even though it has both. It is for the most part what it is. We have removal. Whoop. Removal. Me. We have a token section, protection. That's drain life. Drawing cards, protection. So that's just a sack outlet? Is that what's going on? It's fine. Let's see. Draw, mana, removals. That's a protection. Mana. Those are draws. These are tokens. That's a token. There we go. Basically just token. That isn't everything. You know what? We're gonna put Great Henge as in everything. Draw and ramp. When those two kind of cards, they're special. That's a token one. Drain and life. Token. Just a big creature. Ugh. All right. Kill switch, tapping down everything, removal. We're gonna have plenty of removal in this deck. Manas. That's a mana. This is removal, not so I put that more in the draw section, even though it's kind of removal, but that's draw. Big creature and losing life. All right, protections. That is a manas, removal, draw. Plenty of protection. We might have to look at that. Losing life. Oh, I don't know how much graveyard stuff I actually have left in here. Trail of Crumbs is probably card advantage. We'll go with that. Removal. Life gain. I don't know what the fuck is going on there. Ramp. Scry. Draw. Token. counters. That's just over in the everything pile. Creating food, creating food. Little bit of overboard there. Draw, draw, drain, drain. Okay. Um, so we can kind of say that Wicked Wolf is probably just a creature that gets big. So like we want to be a little bit happy with that. Wicked Wolf, Cranial Plating, Nettle Cyst, and Gaia's Avenger at this point. So um I like them. I just like the idea of that Wicked Wolf can survive a wrath, but I think I would probably rather just have a protection spell. So maybe that's a thought. We have plenty of those, right? One, we have some oop, protect everything, protect one thing, protect everything. I think Silk Guard probably doesn't make it because it doesn't help me with the indestructible part. Like it doesn't survive. Um, so we could probably cut that. So, but this removal tacked onto it is really nice. So I like that. Book's Greaves, given haste. Oh, it's hard to get rid of them. And so we have instant speed, protect everything. One, two, three, four. Is Guiome the looseness? One, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight. Guiome might be the cut. Ugh. Much like Wicked Wolf. I think Guiome leaves. I think that's a cut. Three, four, like one, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight. I think we cut Wicked Wolf. Ooh. I'm okay with that. I'm okay. And I think I'm happy with the protection at this point. One, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight. I think a lot of this changes if I find that I'm just sacrificing a bunch of my food for whatever effect is going on. And then I don't care about the protection. Then I'm just leaving one, two, three, and maybe bringing Guiome back in. And I can cut a bunch of these cards then. Maybe not Eldrazi Monument, but um, is that what we want to do? All right, let's see here. Keep Guiome, Boots Greaves, Collective Restraint as 4. We probably do Eldrazi Monument and probably Heroic, and then we cut those 3. So we're bringing back 1 to cut 3, and we're just assuming that we're not going to have a lot of creatures. We're assuming that we are going to be sacrificing stuff for value. And if that's the case, why am I wrathing? Because that gets rid of my opponent's stuff. And at that point, Ygra is so big. A lot of the wraths I don't necessarily have to care about. Um, we'll cut these 3, cut as much as we can, and then we can come back later if we're like, this is how the deck is working. And so we got those. We're just gonna keep the double ups at this point. Like those ramp and draw are important. We like ones that can do both. I'll go through that. All right, removal package. Let's go with that. So the removal package looks like essentially Gate to Phyrexia. We'll set that off to the side. We have the creatures that ETB and everybody sacrifices stuff. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of that. And then you have mass removal of artifacts and or creatures, Seeds of Innocence, Kill Switch, Creeping Corrosion, Bane of Progress, Wave of Vitriol, and then the creature one is Mandate of Abandon, Plague Wind, and In Garruk's Wake. And so that's probably pretty heavy. I like these just as the game goes along, it's gonna really calm down what's going on. I like these probably other than Wave of Vitriol. And again, Gate to Phyrexia is probably the worst card, but I want to keep it because it's old and I want to be able to play with it. Also, Veil of Summer and Autumn Veil are great protection cards. I think I'd rather as onesie twosies, yeah, I agree with you. If I'm just trying to protect Ygra, um, you're probably right. And the more protection for Ygra, the better. One of my thoughts was if people don't have food and or creatures, then they can't target Ygra, and that's why a big part of like getting rid of their stuff is important. And so I kind of like everything, but it's a bit much. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. I have 15 removal pieces. Um, I think my biggest problem is Wave of Vitriol. I do want to play it, but I think I can get rid of it. Did I say 9? 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 14. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right, 14 pieces at this point. 14. Ooh, that's a lot. I mean, shit, I might be able to add in Wave of Vitriol and just get rid of those, and that probably is enough of the cut. Like, it's just Wraths at that point. And I don't know if I like the sound of that either. Um, would you rather wipe the board or have pinpoint removal? I would rather wipe the board. I would rather wipe the board. Um, because that just gets so many triggers with Ygra that I'm happy. And these are more just like keep everybody calm down a little bit as we're going along. And maybe I just keep like 1, 2, 3 and cut 3. I don't have to I think wave is a fine cut. I think I like these. And so I think maybe the question is do I want to get rid of these big ones? Plague Wind, Ingaruk's Wake. Because I already cut wave at 7, then that's 9 and 9. I think that's probably okay to cut those. Just the huge ones that are one-sided a bit. Mandate of Abandon. So we're down to we just cut 3, so we're at 11. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 1, 2, 9, 10, 11, 12. All right, we're at 12, I guess. Let's see here. I cannot more than what board wipes? There's a heart in the way of the Are you considering these board wipes? I don't think so. I think they're just like control cards. Like it's I'll get 1 or 2 of them during the game and then everybody has to sacrifice something and they're going to be mad at me. And so really what we have for board wipes is like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then these are like incrementals. I mean, I like the idea of being a progress if I can keep it alive. You know, like if there isn't enough survive everything now at this point though. I cut because if I do a bane of progress and then I can go like 1, 2, 3, save everything that I have. Bane survives. Eh. Bane might be able to go because really it's just a 6 mana get rid of all artifacts at that point. I don't think it ever is big. I think it just kills itself with Ygra in play. unfortunately. Um, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Seeds of Innocence is another really old card. Creature player or creature, creature, creature discard, draw or sack a non-token creature. So maybe we can cut these three as well. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I could potentially add in some more cards, but I'm probably happy with that package a bit. I'm right with that. Let's look at what are these? These are the randos. So Rancor, Shadow Spear, Ozolith are just making things big. Oh, Ozolith is another one of those that kind of makes things big. I like that actually. That probably is in the Gaia's Avenger section. And I kind of like that in there too. Ozolith, plating, Nettle Cyst. Ozolith might not have enough support in this deck other than if they kill Ygra, I got another big creature. Um, and then, so what we have is 2 boosts to big creatures, gaining some life, and Chthonian Nightmare. So some recursion. I did get rid of a lot, but I do have a lot of sack outlets, and I think this makes a ton of sense. I'm fine with that. Let's look at our tokens, which is oven, making food, making a token off of a +1/+1 counter. Basically the same card, making tokens, Cyberman Squadron. Um, Cyberman Squadron probably is the worst card out of this bunch if I have to point a finger. I really like the idea of making a bunch of tokens that come into play attacking, but I need Ygra in play to have it even be a decent card. And at 7 mana, that's a little rough. Um, Eater Vol, that's what the ladies used to go. That's I mean, it's a good thing your wife locked you down, AJ. How you doing, bud? I don't want relationship. I just want bang bang bang. I don't want to know your name. I just want bang bang bang. So, that's kind of where we're at. Maybe I might have to go through and see how many cards create or put 1/1 counters on. Because if it's just Ygra, animation module might not be good enough in here. I'm kind of half thinking the same thing about the Ozolith, but that feels weird to say because it's almost like a great protection card. Um, strong cuffs, you don't have the key. I think that's the way to be. Cyberman Squad is the let's set this one aside. That's a maybe cut animation module. These two are in their kind of infinite combos a little bit, infinite sack outlet at least. I like the food that can be created with Witch's Oven and Scavenger's Talent. I think Chatterfang with enough tokens, I might go through and check on that as well. Then Cyberman Squadron. For now, I like it. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 23. I might have enough cuts already. I think we'll go through the whole bit, but this might be a shorter one today, boys. Um, all right. Let's go with some losing life here. Cauldron Familiar, yeah. Disciple of Vault, Cyberman, Marionette, Marionette, then Emissary of Despair, and that. So this probably just gets bigger. That's probably what's going on with it. Um, I like Cyberman Patrol a lot more than Squadron, if I'm gonna be honest. Whoop. Just the mana cost, and this is a good card in itself. This is not a good card in itself. It needs Ygra. Um, but I feel like there's a game winner. You drop this, the next turn Ygra attack and just pop, 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 pop. um, let's cut Cyberman Squadron. I think that makes sense. I like this loss package quite a bit though. So right there, fine with that. Let's get into our draw package. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 16. I don't even want to mess with this really. There's 16 there. I don't want to go less than that. And then let's look at our ramp a bit. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Relatively happy with that as well. Um, let's look a little bit at let's look at +1/+1 counters and tokens being created. So let's see what is working with that token. Let's look at just tokens at this point. I think that's telling me that we're getting enough already. Bada bing, bada boom. Um, let's see here. I can make tokens. Fabricate. Bakers, man. That can make it. Pop, 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 pop. I think we have plenty of tokens being made. I should see how many foods kind of work in that realm as well. Did add in Gaiome. Both of those matter. All right, let's look at those. I think we have plenty of tokens being made. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 17. Yeah. Chatterfang is cool in here. That works. Then how many foods? That does not really make a food. This does. Making foods or treasure, I guess. So we definitely lose some. Let's see here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12. But there's enough. 12 versus 17. All right. And then 1/1 counters. Let's see if there's even enough in here. That's a 1/1 counter. Let's do that again. These things are versatile with the fabricate. Could be 1/1 counters. Gate to Phyrexia. We got rid of Silk Guard, so that's not going to help me out. That does work. Let's see here. +1 counters. Oh, I think this is going to be rough. I don't think we have that kind of support, so that helps us cut down some cards as well. Bada bing, bada boom. All right, let's think about this. These are good cards on their own. The Ozolith probably still makes sense. It's more of like a protection card. And then we have animation module that is a cut at this point. Um, I think we have enough. Let's go through our curve and see where everything is at again. Just probably probably wrap everything up a little bit here. So let's just see what everything looks like. Still feels a little bit like a mess, so I'm definitely gonna have to play around with what goes in and out. Um, but I think we're somewhere. That's probably a 3 at least. 4. Definitely have, like, a little bit of a high curve, but, also a low curve. I don't normally have this many 1 drops in a deck. Generally really, really heavy in the 2s and 3s, and still M in this deck. I feel like I got a lot of 6s as well. So we'll just have to see where everything lands and lays and all right, 2s and 3s and 1s. Yeah, still really heavy in the 3. 1 at the Great Henge. Actually, not that much at the 6 spot. Happy, happy, happy. Yeah, Harvester of Souls. Because if I Wrath, whenever another non-token creature dies, you may draw a card. So if I Wrath, I get to draw some cards, quite a bit off that. Rich Card's Expertise. That's drawing enough cards, and Marionette Master is gonna dome a bunch of people. Um, I like it. Eldrazi Monument's gonna do some work, I think, just on that protection bit. And we have enough tokens being created to sacrifice to it as well. Giome should get me enough food tokens. I got plenty of non-tokens in here as well. Very creature heavy. Sifter of Skulls. This is the one that I'm probably having a problem with. Is this and the Ulamog one, Spawn of Ulamog. I don't think I have enough creatures that are dying incrementally. Maybe I do. Yeah, I mean, at this point, Mandate of Abandon is dope. Creeping Corrosion, Yawgmoth, Death Reap Ritual, 3 spot, Pawn of Ulamog. Experimental Confectioner, yep. I think, yeah, I mean, I still like that. Plague Crafter, Nettle Cyst, Avenger, Chatterfang, yep. Um, I'm not disliking any of this. Any of it. Vala, Rapacious Guest. Trail of Crumbs, Gate, Accursed, Power Leech. And kind of like the nice thing about this one is like it's going to get all of those Fleshbag Marauder effects. Now I only have 4 in there, but if I sacrifice them, I can kind of get them back. There's plenty of cards being sacrificed, so I can easily get some stuff back as well. Cyberman Patrol makes sense. Liquid Metal Coating. Marionette. Yeah, yeah, yeah. We're getting there. Witch's Oven, likes talent. Gilded Goose, a couple of them cheap trample effects. Um, yeah, Skull Clamp still makes sense, especially with those Eldrazi tokens. Disciple. I I think that's it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 30. 30. 7. So we're at 67 cards in there, and that's basically it. Hey, Renshai, thanks a ton. If anybody has any comments, put them in the comment section and let me know what you think. Let me know what you've played with and really enjoy in Ygra. Um, and hopefully I wanted to avoid like Dictate of Erebos and stuff like that. That becomes a brutal game. And this might still be brutal with enough of that removal, but I think Ygra is going to be nice and close out games. Might be too popular, so watch out for that. If you're like, oh, everybody hates playing against it, then you might want to move on from it as well. Hey, thanks again. Hopefully enjoyed. Check out the Mox Field and wherever the list ends up landing. Have a good night. Bye.